Previously on Watcher of the 2000s. Actually, I think I should talk about the DC animated universe.
Watcher, it's time to play your part.
Or rather, DC shows of the 2000s.
Now, struggle to survive.
And I know just where to start.
Set course for Earth.
Nuclear waste accident in Santa Warner. Witnesses say they saw a giant lobster-crab hybrid fleeing into the ocean. The press is calling him the crustacean. It's amazing what radiation can do to someone. Very, very interesting. You know who else got a cool ability from genetic modification? Static! Okay guys, shut up. Static was a character created in 1993 by three men, John Paul Leon, Robert L. Washington, and Dwayne McDuffie. He was a staple character of Milestone Media, a DC branch that ran for 3 years, focusing on representing minorities in comics with superheroes, which is a good-natured intention. Milestone Media died, but Static's character was brought in for the 2000s WB series, Static Shock. So I need to start with... The hell? A visitor? I don't get those. Who are you? Can I help you? If you're looking for the nearest harbor, it's about 50 miles west.
Men search for it. The signal says it's here.
Hey, what are you guys doing?
Mr. Magnetic, we found it, sir.
Who are you people? Why are you tearing through my stuff? What even is that? A radio? A stereo? An oddly colored prop?
So it wasn't a false alarm. You, boy, you're coming with us.
What? No! You're not taking me anywhere, Oh. Somehow you seem to be able to move metal with your mind. This is a lot to take in, so I surrender.
Blast him.
Wait, what? Where am I? What's going on?
Inside, keep an eye on the long-range scanners. We don't want anybody following our trail. There are a lot of ships.
Hey, tell me what's going on. You've kidnapped me out of my home, and apparently I'm in space. What the hell? What's happening? Answer me!
I have enough work to handle without you screaming at me. Quiet down or I'll come back there and teach you a lesson.
Oh god, why? I'm so confused. Hey, little robot, I need some help.
My name is Joffrey. How may I serve you?
You can serve me by undoing these shackles on my ankles.
Sorry, that order does not compute. Would you like to play Triple Triad?
You know what, forget it. Do you have any internet on this ship?
Yes, we do, sir. It's under the name FWLMSHSWHDKLZ101, and the password is honeymuffins. Additionally, you may want to sign up for an account at warriorsoffreedom.com for easier access.
Alright, thanks. Maybe I can still do my review after all. So, before I was, abducted by aliens... What I was getting at is that, embarrassingly, I never watched this as a kid, and it wasn't until about a year ago that I looked at the episodes of the show mainly to fill in my DCAU repertoire. There were turn-ons when I first saw it, and I admit these are childish and petty, but in my defense, I was very young when this aired. First is the hip-hop intro. This was a genre I disliked up until about 5 years ago when I was introduced to Kanye West by a friend. Though still to this day, a group of MCs chanting, "Hey, hey, hey, hey," is something that kind of annoys me in music. The second major reason I didn't watch this show is because its color scheme in the early seasons was way too bright and there's almost no shading. It hurt my eyes to look at it. A lot of colors stood out too much, so I didn't watch the show. It's a shame, too, because it's a pretty well-made show, all things considered. My look into this series is partly going to get into some political stuff, which I normally try to stay away from, but in the case of this series, it seems almost impossible to avoid. This series is about an African-American boy named Virgil in an urban environment, a city called Dakota, where gang violence is prevalent, and he lost his mother, who died during a riot several years before the start of the series. When Virgil is roped into a gang fight, a mutagen gas called quantum vapor goes off, altering all the people there with superhuman abilities. The people they come into immediate contact with obtain powers as well. This event is known as the Big Bang, and the afflicted people are called Bang Babies. Virgil uses his new electromagnetic powers to become the superhero Static, and with the help of his buddy Richie, they start a system where they stop dangerous Bang Babies who are turning to crime and mayhem. I guess I'll start by tackling the characters. We have Static / Virgil. Static doesn't have much of a personality. He feels like he's made of other characters' personalities. His quips, which he still does when no one's around to hear him, and his status as friendly neighborhood superhero are very Spider-Man-esque. The rest of him feels like he fits an archetype of the black kid who wants to leave the urban life, and that aspect is primarily used for political commentary, which I'll get back to. Static also has his really cool gay best friend Richie, voiced by Chase Young. Before anyone calls me some derogatory word, Dwayne McDuffie confirms this. Getting back to the political commentary, his homosexuality is not explored in depth in the show. Richie's extent of homosexuality in the series is that he makes no believable show that he's into girls, kinda like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ready, Adam?
Oh, Sharon, that dress is awesome.
Dude, yeah, we Hawkinses always clean up nice.
Since this series is about representation to those who don't have it, it feels fitting that Richie has that sexual orientation. He's a pretty cool gay guy, like George Takei.
You are made of stupid.
We also have Virgil's social worker father, who is quite emotionally supportive. His nagging sister Sharon, Frida, who started out as Virgil's love interest but eventually becomes completely superfluous, and Daisy, who becomes Virgil's main love interest, but because censors don't want to encourage young teenagers to date, Virgil isn't allowed to date her until way later in the series. Now for the rogue gallery of Static. We have Hot Streak and... what's with ridiculous hair? Can you imagine how stupid he would feel if he kept that hair without getting his fire powers? He's voiced by Jack Spicer, and he's completely insane for no real reason.
Loud noises get on my nerves.
Everything gets on your nerves, man.
Hey, I've got issues.
We also have Ebon, a shadow manipulator who leads a gang of mutants called the Metabreed to promote Bang Baby superiority. So like Black Magneto. Except Static is Black Magneto in terms of ability, and this guy is only Magneto in terms of principle. Well, not even that. His motivation is more of a Goodfellas, I always wanted to be a gangster thing. This is confusing. This show borrows more from Marvel than it probably wants to admit. Like, the premise is X-Men, Static is like Spider-Man. Yeah, just forget I made the Magneto comparison. My head hurts now. Ebon's also the smartest villain in this show, and by that I mean he's the only one who notices that Static talks to Richie a lot.
So, Static's your main man, huh? What better way to catch Static than Jack and his running buddy? That kid. His name was Foley. Every time I see him, Static's right there.
He's accompanied by his two associates, Shiv, who forms weapons, and Talon, who is a bird girl that screams like a banshee. Then there's Rubber Band Man, a musician who gets stretching powers. He has one of the funniest gags and callbacks in the series.
You don't have to explain anything. I owe you an apology for being such a jerk.
No problem. Listen, I gotta put away this vacuum now.
Sharon, what happened to the vacuum cleaner?
I put it away, like I said.
Oh. When we get that?
Oh, Dad bought it. It just came today.
Dibs. It's all lumpy. What? Sharon, we gotta talk. Man, where is she?
This is new.
Uh-oh.
Sit down.
He eventually turns into a good guy. There are several others too, like Ferret, this dude with a really ugly face, Kangor, who I also like to call Jamaican Hitmonlee, and Armadillo Man. Also, Coolio. The series is, black. There's a lot of marketing towards black people in this series. It's actually a little pandering. It feels like it might misrepresent them. It relies a lot on stereotypes. For example, low-income black families tend to be raised by single mothers.
Let him go.
Who you supposed to be?
Dad, it's okay.
Dad.
He wasn't surprised that was my father. That was just the first father he had ever seen.
In this case, the gender roles are reversed. Is Static awesome because he was raised by his father? I'm confused by this. Is that why the guy vaguely resembles a caricature of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? It's not just this character setup, it's the faux hip-hop music being the entire background soundtrack. Opening, overtures, action scenes, comedic, it's all-encompassing. It really tries to indulge this specific audience. Since I'm not black, I don't have that proper viewpoint available. However, I can say that it's very watchable outside of that group, even with the hip-hop music that I'm not that fond of. It's a well-made series. It's carried by two very likable leads that play off each other very well, and I would even call them the most enjoyable part of this show. It's very interesting how they lump together the black kid with his gay best friend, almost as if telling the unrepresented to unite. I do have a problem with the drama of this series, though. Static is a little bit too powerful for the rogues he takes on. Both his archenemies, Hotstreak and Ebon, are pretty easy for him to defeat. He just shocks them, and they stop, which is weird because they seem stronger with their abilities. Ebon even has the ability to create portals. Do you know how powerful that skill is? You think he would abuse it like Janemba from the 12th DBZ movie. But no, he rarely uses it to great effectiveness. The real drama in the series comes not from the action, but from the interaction between the characters. In the first season, Static never really got over the death of his mother, and it's his dealing with a very stereotypically study-obsessed Asian kid.
I think there's a problem here.
Excuse me, Thomas?
You gave me a 99, but I didn't get anything wrong. But what am I going to tell my parents?
Who got Hulk powers that taught him to move on. One of my favorite episodes in the series was about Ebon and Rubber Band Man. The two are brothers, and Ebon wants the recently reformed Rubber Band Man to join the Metabreed. The struggle of family versus morality in that episode actually kept me invested. This series also gets points for pulling off very special episodes well. Since this show likes to depict the urban life that this show's creators perceive African Americans have to live, and this show is the most children-oriented of the DCAU shows, it seems fitting to look at these episodes. A very special episode, or VSE for short, refers to an episode that deals with a very serious and at times controversial socio-political issue. The first big one is called Sons of the Father, where Virgil learns that Richie's father is a racist who hates them dirty black folk and their rap music. Eventually, when Richie runs away, Virgil and Richie's fathers go find them, and Richie's father learns to be more tolerant. The other VSC would be Frozen Out, which is about a little homeless girl version of Mr. Freeze who wants to be loved with a family on the holidays. This is a strong candidate for the best episode of the series, with a comparably subdued political message about understanding the homeless. The story actually overtakes the political message to make something very heartwarming in the end. And it does so without relying on the message that homeless people are people too, but with the information that permafrost feels loved by no one, and this is not a full Static can just stop. The last VSC I'll mention is called Jimmy, which is about a kid named Jimmy who gets bullied to the point where he tries to start a school shooting directed at his tormentors. Richie convinces him to stop, but gets hit in the leg by a stray bullet when two of the bullies try to tackle Jimmy. This one starts out strong, but eventually becomes the most heavy-handed VSC there is. It turns into a statistical presentation of death by guns instead of focusing on what caused Jimmy to snap and how it could have been prevented. We should try to rework our teacher training programs to better spot the signs and causes of bullying.
After Richie was shot, I found out some things about guns you should know. In 1 year alone, 6,000 kids were expelled for bringing a handgun to school.
Uh-oh, okay. Guns are dangerous. I hope we all knew that. There's also the aspect of celebrity cameos. I talked about this in my Johnny Bravo review and how it messes with the comedy aspect of that by taking away its timelessness. But for this series, I look at it a little bit differently. The first celebrity guest in the Season 2 episode Static Shack was actually not bad. They actually forced some sense into having the guest by relating Static to Shaquille O'Neal, as both lead a double life, one that people see and one that people don't. That's actually kinda smart. That's a good justification for bringing in a celebrity guest star onto a superhero series. So, the writers are gonna justify future celebrity appearances, right? No. It's them trying to form a cheap connection to the audience by showing them someone they know in pop culture. But general appeals is not always a bad thing. This series has more crossovers in the third and fourth season. The first crossover, like the first celebrity guest star, was also in Season 2, with Batman and the Joker. It was pretty good. Static earned the respect of Batman, and Robin thought he was pretty cool. The crossovers are usually successful because the other DCAU shows are wonderfully written, so the episodes are still fun to watch. The only objections I have to these crossovers is that it takes away some of Static Shock's own identity. They may be showing what happens to delinquents and gangsters when you give them the ability to be stronger and do what they want, and an action series that deals with realistic teen problems? Nah man, we gotta fuse it with the DCAU so more people watch the show. Still, it's pretty cool to see Static team up with his personal hero, the Green Lantern John Stewart against Sinestro. It's also cool to see Static fight a very dangerous supervillain, like Brainiac, in the big Justice League crossover. It sells its coolness, but loses a bit of its integrity because of it. Far better than Celebrity Guests, though. This series is broken up into two very different halves. The first and second seasons have that solid color shading free art style and is for the most part its own series. The main thing in the first two seasons is gangs, fitting in, and the glorification of the criminal life.
Do you know what hanging with Derek D.B. Barnett's gonna do to my rap?
Start it?
It's really quite mature for a kid's show, but it's balanced by Static's quips, so whatever. There's a notable increase in quality from the first season to the second, as the stories get more emotional. Where a lot of the first season's episodes dealt with how cool it would be to be a superhero, the second season shows a lot more of the side effects. I'll compare some episodes for perspective. For easy comparison, I'll use episodes where Hotstreak is the antagonist. In the Season 1 episode, Aftershock, F-Stop thought he was so hot, so he decided to streak, except he got embarrassed, then pissed, so he started to burn stuff after putting his clothes on, making really dumb puns.
Hey, boys and girls, come and get 'em! That's why they call them hot dogs!
Static stops him after some doubt, only because Hotstreak is the first supervillain he ever fights, and Static defeats him with sewer water. It's lighthearted stuff. Compare this to the Season 2 episode Sunspots, where Hotstreak claims to have gotten anger management, but it worked about as well as throwing a muffin at a brick wall, and Static's powers were shorted out by magnetic shifts from solar flares. Virgil tries to live normally without his powers, even trying to improve his homework. But then, when Hotstreak stirs up trouble because some guys conned him out of a perfectly good muffin, Static has to figure out how to use his powers again to save victims from bullies like Hotstreak. There was just a large increase in the depth of the episodes, which tends to happen as a series ages to its prime. Season 3 brought in a lot of change. Static's outfit color got changed, Richie officially became Virgil's superhero buddy gear, the art style got changed to look more like the other DCAU shows, and they changed the theme song from being performed by a number of MCs to a kid, who I don't find very talented. Kinda prefer the old theme.
Fight the criminal, chase the bad guys, save the world, fly to the sky. Half kid, I'm amazing. Okay, stash out, come face it. Yeah, 1 zip, then you zap. Get zero, get trapped. Look in my eyes, I got the power. Villains run from the static shower. Superhero, static shock. Superhero, static.
The third season is probably my favorite in general. It felt nice for Richie to do some stuff now, and has a lot of good episodes. And one that really stands out is called Flashback, which is shockingly a time travel episode. Static meets Nina, a bang baby who can travel back in time, and he tries to stop his paramedic mother from helping injured people during their riots where she was killed. Also, Ebon wants to create bang babies and be their gang leader and stuff. Nina eventually uses her powers of time travel to take away her powers of time travel, which you think would destroy the universe with a fatal error or something, and Static finally accepts his mother's death. This episode is very touching. It shows Virgil's mom as someone really heroic without needing mutant powers. There's not much alteration in the fourth season. The one big change in structure is that there is usually a clip before the opening to tell what the episode's about. I find that technique is better for drawing in the audience. Static Shock also gets points for one big thing that was missing from all the DCAU shows that came before it, a proper grand finale. This series had a very satisfying one. The Bang Babies, which Dakota has lived in fear of since they were conceived, all start to lose their powers because a doctor sprayed an antidote gas into the atmosphere of the city. Ebon and a bunch of other Bang Babies go to retrieve some quantum vapor to restore their powers, and they're just counting on them getting back the same powers. They will, but there's no way they could have known. Also, we see Ebon's true form.
Where's Ebon?
I am Ebon, fool. That cure they've been spraying is getting to me too. But that's all gonna change.
It was strange. He still looks super evil in his human form, like his facial features. This guy was seriously born to be a villain. But eventually, Hotstreak, Ebon, Static, and Gear are the only ones exposed to the gas, and the two villains, who were overexposed to the gas, form together to become a giant two-headed flaming shadow monster. Here's what the final boss looks like. Yes, it's a two-headed Balrog in Static Shock. Now that is a final battle for your series. After Static and Gear sink the boat, thinking that the Ebon Streak monster survived, Gear says he's going to find a cure for the cure, so people can use their gifts for good again. That is a very effective and picturesque way to end your action series. It's a shame this series didn't get as popular as a lot of others in the shared universe, but it's pretty clear why. Star power. People know who Batman is. People know who Superman is. Static was an obscure character back then, and a lot of the villain designs were not that memorable. The people at DCAU were bold enough to do something new, and overall it worked. I have to give a hand to Dwayne McDuffie. There's no way I can't respect this guy. He made a character and comic series to represent minorities. This character gets published and read, but dies off. Years later, he comes back to make an animated series about this character, and this animated series was good. He lived a nerd dream, and he was one of us. He was a great writer, too. It's a shame Dwayne isn't with us anymore, but he's left behind quite a legacy. Static Shock isn't even the best of it. I'll get into some of his finest work next time. Wayne, you are an inspiration to us all.
We are here.
Where are we?
The base. Yay!
You're awfully cheerful if it's just your base.
I get to see her again.
Do I even want to?
Joffrey, take the prisoner to Lady Rosette along with these incriminating items we've found.
Yes, sir. Right this way, boy. This way to the examination room.
Oh god, look at all those devices on the table. Have I been taken to be tortured by a mad scientist?
Well...